So recently I was given the chance to exhibit a small number of images in a local gallery, and I jumped at the chance, and then I thought it would be a really interesting topic to talk about on this channel. So that's what this video is going to be about, your first exhibition. And as usual, I would like to thank Squarespace for their continued support in sponsoring this channel. So if you need a website, go to squarespace.com/Heaton. So my local print lab, digital lab, have a small gallery inside of their print shop, and when they asked me if I wanted to have an exhibition there, yeah, I was pretty excited, so I said yes, of course. But what I didn't realise at the time was actually how difficult it was going to be and how much thought needed to be put into an exhibition. I mean, this is a small gallery. I decided in the end just to go for 5 images, and that's because I wanted them big. And, you know, I struggled with those 5 images, so I can't imagine how difficult it would be to have a large scale exhibition. So yeah, I'm just going to talk through the process in this video, and I thought it was a really interesting subject. So the first thing I needed to decide upon, once having made my mind up that I was only going to have 5 images, were what 5 images those would be. Now, the first kind of instinct, if you like, or the first thought that comes to mind is, okay, I want five of my favourite images. I love this image, I love this image, I love that image, I want them on the wall for everyone to see. That's not the way to go about it. What you have to do, and what I think works best, certainly in galleries and exhibitions, is to have a theme. And that's for the images to somehow relate to one another. So rather than just choosing 5 completely unrelated images, I needed to come up with a theme. And here's the thing, I don't have a style. So a lot of the great photographers out there have a very particular style, and their images are instantly recognizable as being their work. One fine example of this is a photographer called Bruce Percy, who shoots excellent fine art images, and as soon as you see an image by Bruce, you know it's his work. You know, it's beautiful and it's quintessentially his work. I don't have that, and I think this is something I actually need to work on. So choosing 5 themed images for me was a real challenge, and something, I'll be honest, I struggled with. So I'm lucky enough not only to live amongst some of the most beautiful landscapes in the world, but also to have travelled to some of the most beautiful, breathtaking landscapes in the world. So when I was combing through my Lightroom catalogue, it came clear to me what the theme was going to be. And that theme was, are you ready for it? Landscapes. Okay, so not landscapes as in these are landscape images. Landscapes more from the viewpoint of geographical landscapes. So the 5 images I chose were great examples of how vastly different the land can be from country to country, continent to continent, from the open, flat estuaries of Northumberland to the dramatic glacial mountains of the Alps. So now I had my 5 images, all sweeping landscapes that really do show off the geography around the world. You've got, as I mentioned before, the estuaries of Northumberland, you have the glacial mountains of the Alps, we've got the coastal sand dunes of Namibia, we have the volcanic landscape of the Highlands of Iceland, and we have the mountains of the English Lake District. So now I have my 5 images. I need to decide on paper, size, and finishing. Finishing was easy. There was going to be no finishing. I didn't want any framing or anything like that. I wanted the images simply mounted on foam board so that they were stiff, and then to be hung on the wall so there's that clean image. No border, no distraction, just very minimalist. The paper was a tricky decision. In the end, I opted for Hahnemühle German etching, which is a paper I've used before. It's beautiful. It's so textured. It's incredible. And I wanted all of the images to be printed on the same paper, and this paper really did work across the board, especially on that Northumberland estuary picture, because the sand is just, the paper brings the sand to life. It's a lovely paper, and it was, after a bit of thought, it was an obvious choice. With 4 of the images, I opted for 40 by 30, which was a big, it's a good size, but probably perfect for the size of the room. And then one final image, which was a panoramic, I opted for 60 by 20. And this panoramic was on a different wall to the 4 other images, where you could actually step further back and get a better view. The image I was most excited about was the murder glass, and that's because this was shot on Canon's 5D SR, which is the 50 megapixel beast, and I was really interested to see if that print had the detail that you would expect from such a high resolution file. And I am happy to say that it does. If you go to the gallery and see that image, the detail in that glacier is just phenomenal. And this is where those super high resolution sensors really come into their own when printing big. So I was very excited to see that image on the wall. The image I was most nervous about was my Ennerdale Valley from Great Gable, and that's because this was shot on film, 4x5 large format film, and actually this was the 3rd time I'd ever gone out with that camera, so very much I was in the learning process, and actually still am. And as well as that, I scanned the negative myself on my Epson V850 scanner and processed and prepared the whole image myself. This is something I've never done before, so I'm kind of like jumping in at the deep end with this. So that was it, job done. Actually, that wasn't job done at all, because although I had these images exhibited in the gallery, there was no one to look at them. So I, in my infinite wisdom, decided we should have an opening night. We should have a launch. Let's have a launch party. For this tiny exhibition of 5 images. But, I wasn't doing this, I wasn't selling anything. I had nothing to sell, and there would be no admission fee on the door. This is photography at its best. You learn, you get inspired, you go outside, you put up with all kinds of weather and other obstacles, you shoot images, you fail, you succeed, and then you process, and then the final stage is print and then exhibit. It's in real life, not online, not an online gallery or Instagram, but on a wall in front of people's eyes. This was exciting, and this, because photography is a passion, that's what I wanted. I just wanted people to just come and stand, and we could chat, and we can talk about the work and look at the work. So yeah, I had an opening night, which I'll be honest, I was nervous, very nervous about. For me, that was the most stressful part. So I sent out a newsletter. If you haven't signed up to my newsletter, please do go onto my website and sign up. It takes less than about 3 seconds. And it's through my newsletter that I will send out things like this, invitations to exhibitions. I announce workshops through the newsletter, and other things like speaking events and all that. So yeah, go and sign up to that. Well, that's what I did anyway. I sent out a newsletter inviting people to the evening, and I got a very good response, and I was really pleased. So Jill, who is the boss at Digital Lab, ran to the supermarket and bought loads of booze. Then we got in some sausage rolls and some quiches, and we put on some music, and people came into the gallery. And it was so nice to meet people and just talk about the work and talk about other things. We discussed photography, we discussed Canon, Sony, Fujifilm, Nikon, we all stood around with a beer speculating about what was going to come onto the market in 2018. We talked about the images, talked about the paper. It was a really good night, and actually people travelled a long way. There was a gentleman who came up from London, another guy came over from Ireland. Now, I can't believe somebody flew over from Ireland for my tiny exhibition of 5 images, but I was blown away. A young lady drove down from Glasgow. That's crazy. And it was so nice to meet and chat to people. And yeah, I had a thoroughly enjoyable evening. So the images, they're still on display. I think they're up there until the end of February. So if you're in Newcastle, do pop into Digital Lab. I'll stick a link to their website below in case you don't know where it is. And that was it. It was my first exhibition. It was a small exhibition, but I think it was successful and I enjoyed every part of the process. So thank you so much for watching. And once again, thank you to Squarespace for their continued support of my channel. If you don't know who Squarespace are, you probably should. They're an online website building website where you go and use templates and you build your website using their templates, and it's good. It is good. I wouldn't promote it otherwise. So yeah, if you're going to use them, you can start your free trial. Go to squarespace.com/Heaton, and if you enjoy the free trial and it's all working for you and your website looks good, use the offer code Heaton for 10% off your first purchase. So once again, thank you, and until next time, bye for now.